Okay, in this video, I'm going to walk you through how to post a discussion board or a question for your class in Google Classroom. As with all of our assignments, we're going to start with our classwork tab. And from there, we'll go to the Create button, which is what we used for quizzes and assignments. And one of our options, question, is what we will actually focus on. Here, we'll give it a title. And then we will have instructions. In this case, instructions are going to include the prompt you want students to answer or anything that you feel is essential in terms of the number of sentences or the length of the response. So I'm going to paste from Tuesdays with Maury discussion question, the question that I would like students to answer in this particular prompt. Notice that you can also add other items. So for example, if you have a rubric or additional information that you've saved either in Google Docs or as a file, you can add that as well. In this case, I'm going to add the file that contains the rubric that explains how students will be graded for this discussion board. I think that's always a good idea to include so that students understand what your expectations are. I'm just going to go ahead and upload that. And then they will have the discussion board rubric there to look at as well. Under that add button, you can also add a link. So for example, if you want them to read something first, that you've linked an article here, or if you want them to watch a YouTube video first, you can do that as well. So I have my title at this point, I have my prompt, my instructions, and I have my rubric. We'll move over now to the other side of the page. You'll notice that they can answer in a short answer or a multiple choice. I'm going to leave it a short answer because I really am using this as kind of a discussion board for students, and I want them to interact not only with me but with their fellow classmates. At this point, I can decide if I want one class or if I want all of my classes. I'm going to keep it with my practice class because I don't actually want to post this to my regular classes right now. But you can also choose, for example, if you only want certain students to see the discussion board, or perhaps you want to have some students do one discussion board, other students do a slightly varied discussion board. You can do that there as well. The number of points you want to assign it defaults to 100. I think that's kind of a lot. You can also make it ungraded if you want to make it ungraded, and you can assign a due date if you would like to assign a due date and time. Under topic, you will choose where you want the discussion board to be placed. So I'm going to say I want it in Unit 1. And then the next two options really are kind of up to you. It will default to students can reply to each other. If you want this to be more like a journal with just you reading what the students have said, then uncheck this box. But if you want this to be an actual discussion and for the students to be participating and interacting with each other, then you need to leave that box checked. I do not normally allow students to edit their answer. This is just a personal choice on my part because I like the students to kind of be held accountable for what they post there. And if they can edit their answers, then they could post something and then delete it later. And I don't want them to be able to do that. Kind of the last decision you have to make is whether or not you want to post this particular discussion immediately or if you want to schedule it for later. If you choose schedule, you can choose what day and time you want it to be posted. In this case, I'm going to say that I want it to go ahead and ask. You can also just save a draft and have it there if you want to come back to it later. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it to ask. And so it will post this to my Google Classroom. You can now see that my sample discussion board has been posted. This is what it will look like to students. They will have to click on it in order to see the actual prompt and in order to be able to respond. They'll be able to see the quote that I want them to respond to, the question that I want them to respond, and notice that I did also put in some instructions that I want it to be a minimum of 4 sentences. Students will be able to answer the question, and then once they've turned it in, they'll be able to view what their other classmates have responded as well. Hope that helps.